All right, Saranya, welcome to the Autonomy Podcast. I'm really excited to have you today on this call. Thank you for making the time, by the way, to do the call. Appreciate
Yeah,
it. Absolutely, Saranya. And like I was looking at your progress, and it seems like you started with us now. You've been with us for 6 months. Is that correct?
I have. Yeah. It's hard to believe it's
Wow.
been that long.
Wow, what a long journey. How are you feeling?
Good. Really happy with the progress, really happy that I joined the program and trying to seeing these results after several months of doing this. It's very rewarding.
Wow, that's awesome. And looking at your progress, like you started with us at around like 70 kilos. Now you are at 64 kilos. So that's like absolutely fantastic. How do you feel right now versus being on 70 kilos? Like if you still remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like, that was kind of like an out of body experience for me. Like I didn't really feel like myself, but I tried to make the best of it at the time that I was there because there wasn't really much else that I was able to do at that time to change it. So you just kind of have to be happy with the body that you have and then, live your life. That's kind of what I told myself and tried not to be too harsh on myself because there were other life circumstances that kind of led me to that position. But at the same time, I think, I have always thought of myself as someone who is active and conscious about the things that I eat and things like that. And so it was hard seeing myself in that position where I felt stuck. And so, this program has really given me the motivation and the skills to kind of get back to where I think I need to be and where I can identify with myself and how I look more closely. Similar to how I felt like I probably looked after my first child, right? And so it was nice to kind of return to somewhere where I felt like I recognize the person who I see myself as, and also just like when you look in the mirror, you don't have as much to complain about, So that's always a happy feeling in the morning.
That's absolutely fantastic and great to hear, Saranya. So let me ask you this, like, what were your struggles before joining autonomy? Like, what did you feel like, you struggled with before?
Yeah, so I think there were a lot of factors. So I had just had my second baby in 2022 after
Nice.
COVID. So I think we all kind of got used to this more sedentary lifestyle, if you will. So like all the active components of our life were reduced at least. And then 4 weeks after I had my baby, I tore my meniscus. And then I found out that I had previously, 2 years ago, also torn my ACL, but had been walking around on a torn ACL and playing tennis on
Wow.
it for 2 years. And so, these are kind of like the accomplishments of my life, which I marvel at myself sometimes. It's like, just kind of from a comedic perspective, it's like, I don't know how I walked around and played tennis on a torn ACL for 2 years, but I did. But when I tore my meniscus, I just couldn't walk, period. And so, I was back in the operating room 6 weeks after giving birth to my second baby. And so that kind of just threw a wrench into all of my plans of I'm going to have this baby, I'm going to come back, this is going to be my plan, I'm going to work out, I'm going to do all these things. And then it was no, you're going to sit in bed and ice your leg. And so that kind of just put me in a different frame of mind, I think, and just physically incapable of doing certain things. And so my workouts became just rehab and making sure that knee becomes as good as it's going to be or whatever. And so I tried to do the best that I could eating. And sometimes, when you're having to feed a baby and you're stressed out about certain other things in your life, you think that you're eating healthy, but you're not exactly counting the calories that go into right? Because you're I'm feeding the baby and I'm doing these things and I'm so stressed out, so I can eat more, and I think find ways to kind of justify it to yourself. And so I think that was one of my biggest challenges was in my mind I was doing the right things, and I think on its face that it wasn't I was eating hamburgers every day or something. It was just I was eating too much of the things that I was consuming, and there wasn't a limit. So one of the things, for example, is after a very long week of work, we tend to go out for dinner on a Friday or a Saturday. But turns out if you go all out Friday and Saturday, then it kind of negates all the progress that you've made during the week, right?
That's true.
So in your mind, logically, that makes a lot of sense. But sometimes when you're in the moment, you're I have to live in the moment. I'm going to do all these things and have the food. Because why do we make all this money if not to enjoy what the community and the restaurants around us have to offer?
Absolutely.
Right? So your mind plays tricks on you. But yeah, I saw my husband go through the program. He really enjoyed it. I didn't know what the big stink was about at the time. I was like, okay, well, you're just sending these food logs to people. Like, how hard can it be? You just have to be accountable to yourself. Turns out being accountable to another human being is like a whole different ballgame, right? And so that really helped me, just like taking a picture of every single thing that I eat during the day, like whether or not I send it to someone, like just the act of taking a picture kind of is just like this mental note in the back of your mind. You're like, well, maybe I should make better choices, or like when you write down how many steps you got in a day, and my steps are like 5K, because I've been sitting at work all day, that makes you feel like maybe you should have done more. But yeah, I mean, to go back to your previous question, I think like it was that transition period of my life between like having the baby, post surgery, and then going back to work was hard. And, I was traveling a lot for work. And so that always like, throws a wrench into any sort of routine and regiment that you put in place.
True.
And I work a very stressful job that's a lot of hours. And so you're like, today I had a hard day. I'm going to eat this, that, and the other thing, or I'm going to get Uber Eats, and like it's Taco Tuesday, and so you make a lot of exceptions. You're rewarding yourself with the wrong things.
Yeah. And how did you feel the strategies that were adopted by your Jita, like your coach, to help you overcome those struggles?
They were difficult at first because a lot of it was like kind of curbing my appetite because I was gotten used to like eating a certain amount of food. But I thought the strategies were very simple to implement, and I think that's kind of what made the program really easy to follow. It was like, look, like every single meal, I want you to put everything on one plate, and I want you to section it out this way. And I was like, okay, I can do that. Because oftentimes when like trainers give you meal plans, they're like, I would like you to make this smoothie in the morning, and then I would like you to have a raw egg, and like I would like you to have this, that, and the other thing, and then you have to like go to the store and buy all these ingredients and do all these things that like you already don't have time for. And so I really liked that like the plan that I was put on was something that I could implement into my day-to-day without having to make a whole lot of other logistical changes.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the plan was made with you and not for you, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
So you were, yeah.
Yeah, like the introductory call, she asked, like, do you typically make your food, or do people make food for you? And so based on that answer, she curated the plan according to that, and figured out how to capture the number of calories that I'm eating per meal and things like that. So all of that was helpful. I felt like it was catered to me, and that she understood my lifestyle and how I could maintain myself on this plan while still, there are certain aspects of my life that I cannot change. I cannot change my job. I can't change the fact that I have kids. I cannot change my schedule. And so things like that, I felt like it was important for her to take into consideration, and she did.
Yeah. And that's awesome to hear, Saranya. And let me ask you this, like, what was the moment for you to decide to join Autonomy or decide to do something about your health? Like, what was that big moment that we all have, like, where we decide, like, what, it's time to do something?
I don't think I had like an aha moment. It was just something that was kind of percolating in the back of my mind. And, there was a transition or a promotion that I had at work that was kind of critical to me. And I was like, this is the year that I worked up to this really big promotion for many, many years, and probably set aside my health and other things kind of on the ramp to getting there. But once I got the promotion at work, I was like, okay, well, maybe this is the year to like not set all of my career advancements aside, but do that, but in a tempered way, so that I can also start focusing on myself a little bit more. And like I said, so like, my husband went through the program, so it was like evident to me that it would actually do something, right? And to me, it's hard to sign up for stuff that I don't see the immediate benefit for. It's just a personality trait that take it or leave it, but that's just how it is, right? And so honestly, I wouldn't have signed up for it if he had not already been a part of it.
I see. So what were the signs that you have seen, like, from your husband that made you think, like, what, this is actually working? Like, what did you see change with him? Like, because like you see him every day, this is what partnership is, like the good and the bad.
I mean, I saw how much food he was eating before, and then I saw like, him toning down on certain things, and I was like, I've been telling this guy the same thing for like years and years and years, and he has not listened to me like one bit. And then suddenly he's on this program, and he's like, oh, I can't eat this, that, and the other thing, and like it's actually bringing something in his brain to respond to that. And I'm like, well, they must be saying something useful, right? And so he only had good things to say, and it wasn't like he was like every weekend he was out for 3 hours, like trying to run a marathon or something, right? It didn't seem like this huge lift, yet it gave really good results. And, we were still able to go out on like Friday night and enjoy a nice meal and do things, but just make better decisions together. I think results speak for themselves, but also just like the lifestyle did not feel like he went from, I'm going to eat a whole plate of biryani to now I only consume protein shakes and so I cannot go out with you anymore. I think there has to be a balance to everything.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how did you feel like when you started this journey, the support that you had from the people around you? Like, because it's hard sometimes when we go on social events and to tell people like, you know what, I'm on a diet, like I can't have that. And then like food starts to get pushed in front of you. Like, how did you deal with those situations?
Yeah, I think socially, I don't really communicate to other people that I'm on a diet. I just eat what I eat, right? And it hasn't really seemed to bother me that much. Like people are like, oh, like I'm going to go to this conference. I'm going to take this huge pile of mac and cheese and put it on my plate. And I'm like, I'm just going to skip past that. And it doesn't bother me anymore. Like I think initially it used to be like, oh man, like everyone's having bread and I can't have bread, like lunch or something. But it really stopped bothering me. Before, I think, like, at summertime or whatever, like, the kids are, like, just gulping down pints and pints of ice cream because it's hot. And I used to feel like, oh, I want a cup, too. And now I'm like, if I feel like it and I felt like it worked into my day, I'll have some. But I'm not just having it because they're having it, or, like, if they're having cake, I don't feel like this need to participate in that. I'm like, I'm fine just, like, looking at watching their joy of consuming this sugary substance. And I'm okay kind of, like, taking a back seat. It's funny that you said, like, the people around you. So my mom cooks for us a lot at home. And, I've kind of tried to educate her that, like, at lunch, I can't eat carbs, but I can eat some carbs at dinner. And she does not understand what carbs are. So she's like, you can have a tortilla for lunch. I'm like, that's still carbs. I don't think you're getting it. And then she'll make a certain vegetable. She's like, I added potato to this. I'm like, potatoes. I can't eat this. He's like, yeah, but it's a vegetable. I'm like, okay, see, like this is where we have to like reset and like really talk about like what I need, but like not in a way that's like being a pain for everybody else, but like, supportive of something that I need, but also supporting that other people in this house need to eat as well. So, those kinds of things. I think socially it's sometimes hard because a lot of our events in the legal industry involve eating and drinking, unfortunately. And so it's trying to keep that balance. Like I've tried to, temper the types of events that I go to, or like, if I go to an event and like they're past appetizers or something, I just like skip all of that, right? Like I can just stand and chit chat with people and like have a glass of champagne or whatever, but like not eat like, bacon covered dates and I'll be okay. So it's stuff like that.
And how did you feel like you developed that mindset, Saranya? Like, it's tough for a lot of people to actually say what you're actually saying right now. Like, I can choose not to have mac and cheese. I can choose like not to drink that, not to like, how did you feel the support or the guidance, or how did you feel like that mindset developed for you starting this program?
Honestly, like, taking pictures and sending them to Urjita is like, a guilt realization in itself. Like, I remember like early, like when I was early in the program, I'd send her pictures of stuff that I probably should not have eaten. And she'd be like, why did you make this choice to eat this? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know why I made the choice. But like in that moment, it just felt like I couldn't control myself, But as time went on, you kind of like, I don't know, maybe this is like my validation seeking mindset, but like it's so nice to like be able to send someone your set of meals for the day and then they're like, all your meals look great. And I'm like, haha, I got a sticker for the day, So like that level of validation is nice. But, jokes aside, I think, just seeing the progress and seeing the numbers on the scale go down, seeing your clothes fit better, seeing that you can operate with more confidence in the way that like you look. I mean, those are all the motivators, right? And so like, these are all choices that we make. I know that if I were to go back to doing what I was doing before, I know where I'll end up. I've been at the before stage and now I've been at the after stage. So you're like, it's kind of a choice in your mindset. You're like, okay, if I eat this, that, and the other thing, I will go back to how I looked before. Is that where I want to be? No. All right, let's backtrack. Right? And I think it's also like going back to what we were saying earlier, it's fine to make exceptions at certain points, right? Like if you go out to dinner on a Friday night, it's okay as long as you didn't also consume like 3 snacks during the day on a Friday, right? You'd have to like kind of learn to draw the line somewhere. You can't indulge here and indulge there and then expect everything to be okay.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes hard.
So you still felt that you could enjoy the things that you like to enjoy in life and still be on track to get to your goals, right?
I think that's mostly true, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. And like coming into this journey, Saranya, what was the outcome that you wanted to get out of this journey?
I mean, I talked about this before a little bit, but like, you know, I wanted my body image to be positive. When I looked in the mirror, I wanted to see someone I felt I identified with. And, you know, like I play tennis, I'm active. I want to look like I enjoy those things. And I felt like, you know, the way that I was eating before primarily did not really look like that, right? To me. And that was the heaviest I've ever been, like, ever. And, you know, like, I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing. There were circumstances that kind of drove me to that point. And so I can't say, oh, yeah, how dare you be that at that weight or whatever. It is what it is and it happened, whatever. But I just felt like I lost a little bit of myself. I talk about, like, weekends a lot because our weeks are very tough. But, like, when you go out to dinner or whatever, you want to dress nice and, like, you want to look nice and you want to feel confident. And I didn't really feel confident. You would dress nice and then you would like put on a nice dress and you're like, I don't know. I'm not feeling this. And certain people are okay with that. They're okay with however they look. I just wanted something better for myself, for me.
And what do you feel changed for you now after 6 months of this journey?
I mean, I love it. I think I really enjoy where I'm at right now just because it makes me feel like I'm not thinking twice about how I'm going to look in this dress or like how these jeans are going to fit. I just wear clothes for the sake of wearing clothes and I'm like, all right, this looks fine. Let's go. I think a lot of times, like as a mom, you also kind of lose your sense of style in the process because you're so used to just like putting on some sweatshirt and like feeding the kids and like throwing your hair in a bun, right? And so somewhere along the way, like all those like fashionable, stylistic ideas that you had of yourself like pre-baby are lost and you're like, what is the trend? Someone tell me what the trend is because I've completely lost track of what cool people do these days. And I think it was hard for me to kind of subscribe to be fashionable or like to be trendy when I didn't like who I saw in the mirror, right? And I was like, there's no point of investing in like these really cool like pants or like these like really cool whatever if I don't like how I look. And I think coming back to like close to my goal weight, like not quite there, but like very close, has kind of enabled me to kind of redevelop my style, my identity, just like do nice things for myself, right? And I think I lost a little bit of that in the progress. It was not necessarily all because of weight. I think it was part of it is just like life, but it was nice for it all to kind of come back. And now I can think about, okay, like I want to buy new whatever, like I'm going to like go shopping for myself or something. And it's actually an enjoyable process. Maybe people do, but like I don't want to go shopping and then have to buy clothes in a size that I don't identify, right? And so it's nice to go shopping and then be like, oh, I fit in a size, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, okay, that makes me feel good. Like the shopping was not this like horrendous, traumatizing experience. It was actually an enjoyable moment where I got to find something that I like and then buy it and then it looks good. See, like that whole transaction was like a favorable, positive.
That's nice.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, that's great. And you felt like that changed, like shifted for you over the past 6 months, like that mindset. Yeah, that's awesome. All right. And what did you feel the impact would be on your lifestyle and on you if you haven't done anything to change?
I mean, I guess staying status quo would have been fine, but I think there are certain aspects of my personality that just do better when I feel confident all the way around. Like, I'm just this person. I have a certain way of being and a certain way of coming across to people, and I think it makes me feel more comfortable in my skin if I feel myself. It's not about appearance, it's about like internal confidence. And I think just the way that I was previously, I was thinking too much about other things, and then now I can just kind of confidently just be me and let my personality shine through, if that makes sense. I think
absolutely.
I don't think I would have been the happiest I could have been at the weight that I was at before.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense, Saranya. Yeah, thank you for sharing. So let me ask you this as well. Like, what were 3 strategies or methods that were adopted by like 𝐼RGTA or implemented by 𝐼RGTA that you felt you did not know about before?
So I think one thing was like the one plate rule. I think in the Indian culture, seconds are a very common thing. You're like, oh, let me pile some stuff, and then if I feel hungry, I'll go back for seconds. And now you've like lost complete control of like count of what went in your first plate versus your second plate. It's hard to kind of keep everything together. I'm also the kind of person who like kind of does my meals in a piecemeal way. Like sometimes I'll eat like a little bit of this and a little bit of that and the other thing, and I put them all in like different cups, and then it turns out to be like this huge like it's not so much that the quantity is really large, but like it becomes immeasurable because it's all over the place, right? And so if you're just forced to put everything in one plate, I think it's just easier. Like just in your brain, you're like, all right, quarter protein, quarter carbs, and then a half plate of veggies. You're like, I can do this. I just need to find something to put in each category, and this is really simple. So that, and then drinking water. So I think like drinking water has always been like one of my biggest concerns since I was a kid. I think like I don't really enjoy the process. Like there will be weeks where I'm like, really good about water, and then there will be weeks where I'm like parched the entire time, but like I haven't done anything about it. And then just simple things like snacks, right? I think counting the number of snacks that you have during a day is really important. Those of us who work really stressful jobs, I think sometimes in that moment of just like, oh, this is really hard, you grab the nearest like sugary treat, or you grab the nearest something. You're just like, all right, I'm going to occupy my mouth with this right now while I deal with this hard thing that has nothing to do with the food, but somehow the food is helpful. But, I think just having some cognizance around what those snacks are, how many calories they should be, that sort of thing has been really helpful.
That's awesome. And what did you feel like helped you stay consistent throughout these months, like, with these strategies?
I think the daily check-in is really helpful. Even sometimes when I forget, I should put all these images together in the WhatsApp. I think that just really, it tells a story of your day and it makes you accountable. I think like tracking your weight every single day is really helpful to me. I didn't realize before the start of this program how much up and down there is. And Ojita has explained several times over and over again to me. Like the fluctuations are to be expected. Like if you gain 3 pounds in a day, you didn't actually gain pounds. And it's like, it's water weight, it's whatever. And so like, she'll just be like, just wait until tomorrow, it'll all even out. But like, if you don't weigh yourself every day and you just weigh yourself like every now and then, you lose the perspective of what it means to be like up and down, kind of like in this zone, but like kind of going up and down a little bit. So that's been really helpful. I think, going back to like you asked like, what are the 3 things? I'll give you a 4th because you didn't ask.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah.
So steps are really important. So I have a desk job, unfortunately. For the most part, it's a desk job. I go into court sometimes or whatever, but so I'm on my feet. But for the most part, I'm sitting. And so as someone who sits for a long time during the day, forget how much sitting you do because it just becomes a part of your daily life. And so when she was like, you have to get to 10K steps every day. We started with 8 and then we did 8.5 and it was like a gradual thing. And like when I started hitting 8,500 steps or 8,500 steps every day, she'd be like, okay, well, can you do 10,000? Right. And so now it's like 12,000. But I mean, at the start of this program, I would have never imagined that I would be able to get to 12,000. So that would have been like a far cry from anything that would have been reasonable. But to me, it was like, when I was looking down at my watch, like, I think there were days, like on the days that I played tennis, I would probably get to 10,000. But on the other days, I was like barely hitting 5. And it didn't feel like a bad thing because like I was working, I was running around with the kids, I was doing all the things that I normally would be doing, but like I wasn't getting on a walking pad to like get my steps because it just wasn't part of my routine. And I've seen how much that plays a big part in this whole like fitness thing in terms of like trying to get something in every day. It's hard, but I think it gives me some calm to like get on that walking pad at 9:00, even though it's at 9:00 and I hate it, but it is what it is.
That's awesome. That's really great to hear, like with all these strategies, how they're working with you and how it kind of builds up as well for you, as you keep doing them and how you feel like, are like sometimes our mindset or mental barrier stops us from doing things. Now you see like, I can do 12,000 steps a day. 6 months ago, like, that wasn't possible.
Yeah, it's
awesome.
True. And I think it's about like finding pockets of time that work for you. Like your pockets of time are not going to work for my schedule and vice versa.
Exactly.
And so like I've found ways in which to get to that goal by doing different things. They may not be the same every day, but I've found ways to get it done. I mean, I have to say, in the wintertime in Chicago, it's a lot harder to get steps in than it is in the summer, where you're like, just naturally out and about and walking and, taking a casual stroll during the day. Like, none of that happens in the wintertime here. You're stuck on this walking pad. But at the same time, like, if I weren't a part of this program, I would have just been very stationary this whole winter. And I think, as a result of that, a lot of people lose progress or lose some of the motivation of time. But a program has kind of made sure that I can stay consistent even when it's hard.
That's absolutely fantastic. Really great to hear. So what is next for Saranya right now? Like you're at 64 kilos, around 64 kilos. What is the next goal for you?
I don't know. Keep on going. I think that I'm at a point, I've been thinking about this too. Like, I'll reach my goal weight very soon, but then what then, right? I think fitness has always been a big part of my life, save the last 2 years or so. But I think now that I'm on this journey, it's a lot easier to keep going and just continue the progress, right? That doesn't necessarily mean losing weight. It just means like keeping up your health and engaging in more healthy behaviors. Now that I guess I'm close to 40 now, like it or not, these things become more important as you get older. And you're setting good examples for your kids too, right? When they see you doing healthy things, they're like, oh, okay, like mom's doing this. This is cool. Like I should do that too. And it was tough at the beginning because people aren't expecting you to do it. My kids knew that I would go to tennis like twice a day, but now they also know that I go downstairs to like go walk for an hour, and they're okay with it because they know this is your block of time. So I think keeping all of that going is one of my long-term goals here.
Yeah. And trust me, if you hadn't mentioned it, I wouldn't never have guessed that you're close to the 40. You look absolutely amazing.
One more year.
That's awesome to hear. So my last question to you, Saranya, is what are 3 tips or advices that you would give to somebody who's just joining the program based on your experience so far?
Trust the process. It's hard at the beginning because coach is like, okay, well, we're cutting out all of these calories. And you're like, but I'm so hungry. Just trust. It's going to be hard at the beginning, but eventually your appetite will curve to a point where you're not craving it. For me, the steps was like a really big deal. So like the walking pad, getting a weighted vest, just like finding a way to like hook my phone to the walking pad, that was huge. So I had something to do for the 1 hour that I was getting my steps in. Just following the program and enjoying the process, right? And so like I don't look at the weight and think, oh man, this was kind of like a terrible week. It's just okay, well, maybe this week we didn't make as much progress as the previous week, but that's okay. We keep going, we keep trying, enjoying who you are along the way. I think there were certain points where we're just a sense of this, and I probably lost like around like 10 or 15 pounds or whatever, 10 pounds, and I was like, oh, this is great. Now I feel like I'm in a happier place than I was before. It's easy to get content with some minimal progress, but then it's good to keep in mind that the end goal is what you set at the beginning, and to continue working hard to like get to that end.
Exactly. It's more than certainly like helps having that positivity attitude or positive attitude in your mindset. Like, that's always great because it helps you bounce back from those bad days, and also be courageous to celebrate those small or big wins. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, hitting reset is a big thing, right? You're like, okay, you know what? Like maybe I didn't follow the plan to the T on this day, but next morning you get up and you don't have a donut, right? You're like, okay, I'm back on this treadmill, if you will, and you just start with the plan. You start at 8 a.m. Like you just gotta get back on there and do the work.
Yeah, the next day is always a new day.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're not always going to make the best choices, right? And so sometimes we mess up, and that's okay because there are temptations, there are outside influences, there are other things beyond your control. I've probably eaten an extra slice of pizza here and there, and it has been like, I told you like 18,000 times to only eat 2 pieces of pizza. I'm like, but 2 pieces of pizza is like, it's just kind of like, it's cruel, right? You're like, I totally want to eat like 3 slices of pizza. It's okay if once in a while you veer off the road a little bit. You just have to learn to come back.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. Really great to hear. And thank you for sharing all of this information, really valuable information that you shared. And I'm really, really happy with your progress. Really happy that you're enjoying the journey so far.
Yeah. Well, happy to be here. Glad to be a part of it. You know, it's nice to see progress from other people when you guys share it too, because then it feels like you're kind of part of this community and everyone's kind of trying to reach the same goals. So yeah, happy to share.
That's awesome. Awesome to hear, Saranya. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for being on this call today. And I really wish you all the best. And I will catch up with you later once you hit that target goal and see how you're feeling.
Yes.
Maybe we could get you on another episode once you get to the...
Yeah, maybe. Sounds
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much, Saranya.